Hello people and welcome back to MBTI and Enneagram Connections. My name is Toby, and in my last video, which was regretfully long ago, I claimed that the most common Enneagram type for an INFJ was the 1. But since then, a lady named Michelle have informed me that according to the numbers she read, which might actually be correct, I think, the most common enneagram types for the INFJ is actually 4, then 9, then 2. So naturally I had to make a second video on the INFJ and the enneagrams, kind of talking about those types. The first interesting thing to notice here is that 4, 9, and 2 are the same types that are the most common for the INFP. So I think that might be a reason why so many people seems to think that INFP and INFJ are so similar, even though they have the polar opposite cognitive functions, with INFP using extroverted intuition and introverted feeling, and INFJ using introverted intuition and extroverted feeling. So there's a very interesting set of similarities and differences there. But to jump a little more into the INFJs themselves, they have this mind reading ability, this introverted intuition that I talked about last time, which makes them capable of analyzing their own mind and how it makes patterns, and then mirroring it to other minds and being like, oh, I bet that's what's happening in your mind right now. And I can't help but thinking, if you're a 2 or a 9, what the 2 want is they want connections with people, they want to be loved, and they want to have meaningful connections. 9s want peace, they want internal peace and external peace, and they want to avoid conflict. If you're one of those types, introverted intuition is a fantastic tool, because you're able to tell what's happening in people's minds, meaning you're able to know exactly what to say, what to do, in order to create that connection that you crave, or in order to create that peace that you crave and avoid every conflict. And that's why you'll find so often that INFJs are very good people, because they have that introverted intuition and they also have extroverted feeling, meaning they can read body language, they can read the mood in the room, they can sort of figure out what everybody's feeling like and take a temperature on any social situation. But that also means they have very high expectations on themselves when it comes to this stuff. They're typically empaths. I can't talk English right now. And they're typically like can forget themselves a little bit in all they are reading into other people, which I imagine is especially a problem for a 9, who tend to do that anyway. I'm a 9, I know that can be tough, and I imagine it could also be for the 2. So that's the thing with the 9 and 2. INFJ, I imagine that they're very good at people, and that gives them a natural advantage, but they must tend to forget themselves quite a bit, and kind of put their own needs in the back, especially for the 9, who tends to do that anyway. Then there is INFJ 4, which is supposedly the most common type, and that's an interesting one for me. I had not seen that coming as being the most common type for the INFJ. But I've been thinking about it, and I gotta start with the introverted intuition when I'm talking about INFJ. and say, if you're a 9 and you have this desire to be special, which is what drives the 9, and you have this fear of being mundane, and you have this fear of being a nobody, being nothing special. An INFJ4 must be bound to be very introspective, must be bound to be like second guessing and analyzing themselves a lot, trying to pinpoint the unique thing about themselves. And I imagine they can get very frustrated if they don't find it, but I think they will find it. Also, INFJs have an advantage because they are unique, because they use this introverted intuition that only like 10% of the population uses. So if you're an INFJ4 and you're looking for something unique about you, there's at least something that you have, a gift that very, very few people have. But of course, I imagine that it can be frustrating. It can be a lot of self-analyzing, also possibly sometimes to excess, to a fault. But at the same time, I imagine that the ability INFJs have to read other people will help them get to that realization that 4s need to get to, that they are special and that everybody is special. And I think if you do that mind analyzing, which INFJs does, you would have a much easier time reaching that conclusion and pinpointing the special thing about both yourself and everybody else. And I think that could be a great advantage for you. So, like any other type, there are different traps and different possibilities. Some of the traps that INFJs across the board should be aware of, I think, I'm not an INFJ, so tell me if I'm wrong, but I think would be things like forgetting themselves and also overanalyzing and second guessing themselves. While the possibility and the talent that they have is this incredible combination of extroverted feeling and introverted intuition, making them extremely good people. Even though they're introverts, and I know they tend to be very introverted, but they have this boom and bust thing where they can be very social and then they can kind of draw back to the introvert state, and when they're social they're extremely good at it usually. So that's my analysis of that with my new knowledge. But as always, please tell me if I'm wrong. There was a few of you guys who came out and engaged me on my last video, and I just want to say you guys are the MVP. Please keep doing that. I love it. We're in this together after all. I told you in the first video, and I'll say it again, I'm not gonna be teaching you, I'm still learning this, I'm just trying to start a conversation. And it's always a pleasure having a conversation with you guys, but I think that's all I got for now. So remember, be yourself, everybody else is taken.